Okay, so Kant part 1. This is the book. All right. Good. So let me just summarize a little bit where we are briefly, right, with Kant. This is, I hope you noticed the change of tone, right? We were doing good, right? We had some poetry, we had some nice dialogues, and now we're back into hardcore Western philosophy, which is very dry. And but also, like I said, if you read Kant, you actually become more intelligent. I mean, seriously, it just has an effect on you. It's like Mozart, right? Because so clear and so rigorous that it actually like aligns your brain waves. So I really, just read it just to get smarter. It's very, very, I mean, some of you might not agree with me that it's clear, but it is actually. He writes very clearly. He just writes very, you have to follow the train of thought. That's the problem. You really can't have ADD if you're going to read Kant. You got to fix that before you get into the text, right? But if you don't have ADD, and you have some stamina, right? You will notice that if you read till the end, it's actually quite clear. Anyways, so we are now, right, in modern times, right? We are no more in medieval times, where if you notice the text we did so far, predominantly they were religious texts, right? Except Plato, right? But we did the Song of Songs, we did some Rumi, and God was kind of, not so much at the center, but in the background, certainly. Now we are in a place, right? No more God, no more scripture, no more guidance, basically. That's the issue, right? There's no more outside guidance how to love. And now we're kind of left, in a way, to our own devices. Now, how does Kant resolve the issue that there's no more priest, no more scripture, no more guidance? How does he resolve the issue? See if you remember. How can we know what is right and wrong? The right way to love, the wrong way to love? Yes, within, we have a voice, right? We all deep down have the moral law written on our hearts, right? It doesn't have to be written in a scripture. It's already in it. It's inside of us. All of us not instinctively, let me not use that word. That's a technical term in Kant. All of us, deep down, we know when we're about to do something wrong and when we're about to do something right. And we'll see how that applies to our romantic relationships. I think one of you was like, what does this all have to do with love, right? There's a whole passage on love, right? A tiny passage, but it's there. We'll study it today. Okay, so we are now in the context, right, where morality is inside of us, where to a certain degree it's natural to us, right? Not completely though, because what else is there within us? What other voice is there apart from the voice of reason? Yes. Instinct, right? We are kind of torn between these two voices, right? Reason, which is giving us, right, the sense of what is the right thing to do, and then instinct, which is giving us the sense of what is the pleasant thing to do, or the happy thing to do. So we're torn between these two voices, and the key, of course, is to learn to not only obey the voice of reason, but hear it. This is the problem. Most of us, our voice of instinct is so powerful, we don't hear the voice of reason anymore. So we're confused. Actually, most of our decisions are led by instinct. And you're going to see today, I'm going to give you a few scenarios, and you're going to see how many of us actually respond instinctively to situations. Not many of us are using our reason, right? So one of the reasons Kant wrote this book is really to help us connect to that part of ourselves. Help us know what does it sound like so we can recognize it when it whispers in our ear, right? What is the right thing to do? So that's the issue here, right? Okay, so today we're just going to talk about instinct, reason. We're going to talk about what instinct sounds like, but we're not yet going to talk about what reason sounds like. So we don't know yet. After the end of this class, you won't yet know what does the right thing to do sound like, but you'll know what does the happy thing to do sound like? So you'll be already able to know what the voice of reason does not sound like by the end of today. Next time we meet, we'll talk about what it does sound like. And then you should be experts in hearing the voice of reason, right? Now again, well, we'll get to that. Okay, so let me just review the terminology, right? Instinct, reason, these are the two forces within us. Right? Instinct is the voice in us which is seeking pleasure or happiness or immediate gratification. That's all synonyms, right? When Kant talks about happiness, it's Well, actually, no, it's not even immediate gratification. It can be long-term happiness, so just happiness, right? Instinct is the part of us which is seeking happiness, immediate and long-term, right? So instinct is not completely stupid, right? Instinct is pretty smart. It will calculate for you the best path to your happiness, short-term and long-term, right? And then we have reason, which is interested in something else, and we don't yet know what that is. Kant vaguely calls it the good, right? But we do not know, and we will not know today, what does this good look like, right? But for now, we know there is these two. So let's look a little bit as what I'm going to do is summarize the argument that Kant makes, that there is a higher purpose in us than happiness, right? And then we'll look at the text, and then we'll go briefly on a section on love, right? There's a whole section on love. So main argument here Kant is trying to make is that we are made for more than happiness. There is a higher calling in each one of us within, right? This is not a higher calling from the authorities or from scripture or from God, right? This is an inner calling, right? Remember, everything for Kant is you. Your higher self is calling you to a destiny, to a calling higher than just your happiness, right? So that's what he's saying. That's what he's going to prove to us, right? And I'm going to show you how he does that. So make sure you write down that what he's trying to prove in this whole chapter is that we have a calling higher than happiness. There's more to us than just the greedy quest for happiness, right? And by the way, this is a very counterintuitive, right? If you look today, after we've been through now one of the main transitions in philosophical thought brought on by Darwin, right? Where Darwin is saying everything is instinct, basically, right? Remember Darwin, you know what I'm talking about, right? Survival of the fittest, you're trying to survive, and the urge, anything you do is for your survival. Even if you're nice to someone, why are you doing it? Anybody know what would be the Darwinian argument why you're nice to that person? What would be the instinctual reason why you would be nice? Yes? Huh? Yeah, exactly, because, if we cooperate, we can support each other. Ultimately, I'll be happier, right? Hobbes, all about that, right? So we are now in a civilization where we don't actually believe there is a higher calling than instinct and happiness, right? We really, a lot of us, especially in philosophy, believe that we are just instinct, masquerading as something better. But ultimately, all we care about is our own backs. And if we're going to be nice, it's for our own backs, ultimately, right? This is Hobbes. We are very much influenced by Hobbes in our civilization, especially in the United States, because Hobbes, remember, is British. We are coming from that tradition, right? Kant is more on the German side of things, right? So we are really, as Americans, we actually believe this, that ultimately there is only instinct. And anytime I'm nice, deep down, it's because there's something in it for me, right? Let me say that again, right? Let's make sure you jot this down, that as Americans, right, coming from the Hobbesian tradition, we actually don't believe there is something higher than instinct. We believe that we are completely manipulated by instinct. Even when we're nice, even when we're quote unquote moral, deep down there is an incentive, there is something, it's about us. Ultimately, we'll get something out of it, right? So Kant is making something, an assertion, which he needs to prove, especially to us, right? So let's see how he does that. Okay, so he begins by saying, let's imagine that we were made for happiness, that's what our purpose is. So I'm going to just go over the argument so you can listen, and then I'll say it again so you can write it down, right? So he's going to say, let's imagine, it's so nice to see your faces for once. So you're always looking down. Let's imagine, right, I should do this more often. Let's imagine that we were made just for happiness. So he says, well, if that were the case, then why were we made with reason? Reason, as soon as it kicks in, constantly working against your happiness. So why is there a faculty within us, right? If we were made, right, in a way that is organized and rational by the Creator, right? Why? And we were made just for happiness, then we should have been made just with instinct, like the dogs and like your pets, right? Your pets are happier than you. Did you know that? I'm sure you noticed. We all want to be our pets sometimes. Like, oh man, I wish I was you, sitting around all day, right? So, right, our pets were made, right? If we were made for happiness, we should have been made just with instincts. But we were made with reason, meaning there's something in us pushing us beyond instinct. Therefore, says Kant, we were made for more than happiness. Are you following the argument? Okay, let me say it again so you can write it down. Number one, if we were made for happiness, we should have been made with just instinct. That's the first line of the argument. If we were made for happiness, and if we were made by an intelligent being, organized being, right? If we were made for happiness, we should have been made just with instinct, like our pets. But, second part of the argument, we were made with reason, which constantly ruins any attempt at happiness. Therefore, says Kant, because we have this force pushing us constantly to override our urge for happiness, we must have been made for something more than happiness. Everybody got that? That's in essence the argument, right? Okay, let's look at the text, and then I'll give you some examples.
Professor,
Yes.
can you say it again? I missed it.
Yes, okay, great. So, point number one. We were made, okay, if we were made just for happiness, we should have been made just with instinct, like our pets. That way we would be completely happy. Point two. But we were made with reason. And we know, and I'm going to show you, that reason constantly overrides instinct, goes against our happiness. So clearly, says Kant, point three, there is something within us pulling us beyond happiness. Therefore, we must have been made for something beyond happiness. Good, Liviane?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's go to the text, and then I'll give you some examples so it illustrates this. Okay, I'm on page, where am I? Okay, I'm on page 8. 1, 2, third paragraph. In the natural constitution, everybody with me? Wave at me if you're with me, say something. Okay, good. All right, so basically repeating what I just said. Kant is saying, in the natural constitution of an organized being, i.e. one suitably adapted to the purpose of life, right? So this is us as humans, right? Let us take, where am I? As a principle that in such a being no organ is to be found for any end unless it be the most fit and the best adapted for that end. Okay, so he's saying, basically he's saying we were made in an organized way. Every organ in our body is meaningful, has a purpose, we're not random, right? So then he says this, now, if that being's, if our preservation, welfare, or in a word, its happiness, were the real end of nature, in the case of a being having reason, then nature would have hit upon a very poor arrangement in having the reason of the creature carry out this purpose. So he's saying now, if we were made for happiness, right, and here we are with reason, then nature is doing a bad job, right? If we were made for happiness and boom, nature has implanted reason inside of us, it's a complete failure. Nature is not creating us, structuring us in the right way, right? And then he continues, he says, for all the actions which such a creature has to perform with this purpose in view would have been prescribed much more exactly by instinct, right? So he's saying here, it would have been better for nature to create us just with instinct. That would have brought us to happiness, right? And so he continues, go now to page 9, second paragraph. Reason, however, are you there? Okay. Reason, however, is not competent enough to guide the will safely as regards its objects and the satisfaction of all our needs. So he's recognizing reason sucks when it comes to happiness. It's not doing great there. To that end, would an implanted natural instinct have led much more certainly? Instinct is much better at it than reason. But inasmuch as reason has been imparted to us, its true function must be to produce a will which is not merely good as a means to a further end, but is good in itself. So now he's saying reason sucks at finding happiness, but probably then is not about finding the good for me, something that feels good, but the good in itself, something higher, a higher good than what's good for me. Let me say that again. Reason then is its purpose is to find a higher good than what is merely good for me. Good for me is what makes me happy. There is a higher good than that. That's what reason is after. Okay. Illustration. So you have a big test, let's say tomorrow, and You procrastinated, so you have only tonight to study. So here you are studying, right? And then you get a call. Let's see, from who? Your bratty little sister, who's in trouble again. She's at some party with some stupid idiots, right? And you got to go pick her up, and and you're like, this is like the only time I have to study. This is stupid. Why do I got it, right? Now, I'm just curious. How many of you would pick up the bratty little sister? Let's see. What? A lot of Kantians in the room, right? Now, notice, right? What would make you happy? Studying, right? I mean, see, happiness is not just gobbling down hamburgers, right? Happiness is getting good grades. So this is a very sophisticated definition of happiness. Happiness is what makes you happy, secure. You feel good about getting a good grade. You feel good about studying. You feel good about... So happiness is not just, right, eating hamburgers or eating potato chips in front of the TV, right? This is a very sophisticated... Now, do you see how that other voice in you is ruining your happiness right now and causing you to go out in the cold to pick up your bratty little sister who deserves to stay at that party and have done to her whatever is about to get done to her, right? You see what I'm saying? You see how your voice of reason overriding your happiness, those of you who are Kantians? How many of you would have stayed home and studied? Just curious. You don't dare. You're hiding. You're hiding. I'm sure there's a couple. That's nice. A lot of Kantians in the room, right? So do you see how in this particular... Now, here's another. This one's a classic. I like to do this one because it gets me into your minds. How many of you are true Kantians? How many of you are not? So here's a second scenario. But first of all, you got it, right? You saw how there's a voice in you gonna go against your happiness, voice of duty, voice of the higher good than the good for yourself, right? And this voice, and systematically, right? Each time you have some happiness over here, not always, but sometimes this voice is going to be like, veto your happiness for the sake of something higher, whatever that is. We don't know yet what that is. We don't know yet what the good is, right? By the way, note this down. The good is not necessarily making someone else happy. We're going to see that, right? Doing the good is not necessarily bringing happiness to others. Why not? Give me an example where the good is, yes.
All right, well, I guess kind of going on to the thing we were already using. Let's say the little sister asks you to drag her to another party because she wants to keep having fun and she says the night is young and I don't want to go home yet. But you can tell that she's already she's already intoxicated, can't really handle herself anymore. Like she definitely, the best thing for her is to go home and to sleep.
Okay, very good.
She's asking you to please take her somewhere.
Exactly, right? So it doesn't mean, so we know already from this short discussion that the good is not necessarily about making others happy. It's something else. So it's not about making you happy. It's not about making others happy. Today we just know what it's not, right? I'm keeping the mystery and the suspense. It's like a telenovela, right? We don't know what's going to happen next, right? But for now we know that. So be sure to write this down because some of you make the mistake on the exam, which really makes me slash points because I don't like to see that. Oh yeah, the voice of reason is about helping others. It's not, right? Not necessarily, right? It could be, but not necessarily. It's not about making others happy. It's something else. It's not about you. It's not about making them happy. We have something higher still to aim for. Okay, here's my example that we're going to have fun. I'm going to give you 2 examples that we'll be working on during these 2 weeks or next 2 sessions because we won't figure it out yet. So here's the first one. You're in a bar and in comes that person you've had a crush on the whole semester. Of course, they were dating someone, but your friends are telling you now that they just broke up that night with their boyfriend or girlfriend, right? With their significant other. Now you're sitting here and reason and instinct start a little dialogue, right? Now, I'm curious. How many of you would go up to that person and make a move? They're vulnerable, right? They need you, right? How many of you would go up and tell me why? Curious. And then how many of you would not go up and tell me why? Okay, those who would be courageous to go up, raise your hands. The class of cowards. It's like, y'all know what? This is your moment. This is your chance. It might not happen again. She's right there. He's right there. You could innocently go talk to them. Okay, so all of you would not go up? Who would not go up? Okay, let's look at your motives now. Okay, we're going to see if your decision is coming from instinct or reason. So let's go over. Who raised their hands? Raise your hands again. Okay, let's start with you. Why wouldn't you go up?
I feel like I'd be preying like on someone who's down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you thinking?
I mean, if that was my intention, then yeah, but I don't think that would be my intention.
Okay, so you're thinking instinct or reason is at the origin of this? Be preying on someone. Okay, yeah, it sounds more reasonable because you're not thinking of their happiness, not thinking of your happiness, something else. We don't know yet what, but okay, good. Let's see. Ali, what was your motive?
Maybe give them healing time.
Maybe what?
Give them healing time.
Oh, you guys are such Kantians. Why am I even teaching the class to you? Okay. Reason. And who else had their hand up? Yes, why?
Well, my opinion, it just doesn't feel right because, like you said, they broke up that night and you need them to have some time to like process it. Because they were probably still in love with that person, and if you go up to them, it just doesn't feel right in my opinion.
Okay. Let me dig a little bit. It doesn't feel right because they wouldn't be ready to be with you, right?
Yeah, or like with anyone, if they were to approach them.
Okay, you're not doing that argument, but let's imagine you are. Let's imagine she's saying, I won't go up because they're not ready to be in a relationship with me yet. Instinct or reason? Why? Very good. Why? Yes, go ahead.
Because you figure yourself at that point.
Okay, you didn't say that, right? But I'm using you. A person like that who would be saying, I don't want to go up because they're not ready to be in a relationship and I don't want to, like mess up my life, by starting something with someone who's being a rebound, right? So I'm not going to go up. That's instinct, right? You're seeing? Let's see. One more. Who else had their hands up? Trying to find. Go ahead, Clyde.
Well, you said that like that person needs someone at that moment, but I think that like that would be like taking advantage of them. I feel like it's like not a moral thing to do at all.
You guys are so boring. You're so moral.
I mean, like whether or not I like this person a lot, like, I don't want to treat them as like an object that like,
Okay,
now I
okay.
have this opportunity to seize that. It's
You're
like,
way ahead of us. Yes, we'll get to. He's very close to what we're going to talk about with Kant. Very good, Klein. Very good. Okay, now there's other reasons that come up in other classes, less enlightened than you. So I'm going to give them to you, right? Some people actually say, I will go up, to attempt my chance. That one's obvious. But some people will say, I won't go up because I don't want to get in trouble with the person's significant other. Right? Suppose there is a big boyfriend, right? Or so they're like, I'm not messing with this right now. They're right. And by the way, which one? The one who doesn't want to mess with the person's significant other, instinct or reason? Instinct, right? Okay, so you're getting the idea. Now, here's a hard one. That one was too easy for you. I'm going to make it harder. Here's a harder one. This one is good. This one is good. This one you won't get. You will not. There will be mixed feelings. You're going to lose this enlightenment in the class. So, this is now again how do you call this? Final exams. 50% of the grade. Okay, if you fail the exam, it's over. You fail the class, right? Now, teacher is a complete robot. Cannot talk to them, right? So if you miss that exam, they're just gonna fail you. Some people are like that, right? So. Now, if you fail that class, you lose your GPA, you lose the scholarship, right, that you have. You lose the scholarship, it's the Excelsior, right? You lose the whole 4 years. You have to, right? If you mess up one semester, it's over, right? Okay, let's imagine that. So it's very drastic if you miss that exam, basically, right? You lose the scholarship. Now you have to reimburse. I think it's like that with the Excelsior, right? If you have to finish in 4 years, right?
Basically, you just have to whatever. There's certain requirements, but you can reapply technically.
Oh, okay. So let's not use the Excelsior. You'll just lose your scholarship. So it's a big deal. Now, you're ready to study, right? You've planned this. You're good. And now comes in weeping your childhood friend who's in the same class. And they have just lost their father, right? Died. And they can't think, they can't do anything, they know they're going to fail, they can't get their act together, it's impossible to talk to the professor because they're a robot, and so they're begging you, please let me cheat off of you, right, for this exam. Because you know that I know the material, but this, I just can't get my act together. All right, now let me ask you. How many of you would let your childhood friend cheat off of you for the exam? Let me see your hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many of you wouldn't? 1, 2, 3, see, 4. We are now, you have lost your enlightenment as a class. I have divided you, right? Now, we don't know yet what Kant is going to say until next time, right? But for sure, some of you now are pure Kantians and some of you are on the fence. But I'm not going to tell you who yet, because we're going to look at that example next time when we look into what is the good, and it will become crystal clear, right? Which ones of you were Kantians and which ones of you weren't. So I'm going to leave you in the suspense for that one. But this is a very complex, right? Because everything in you is telling you, I gotta let this person cheat off of me. And yet some of us still don't want, you cold-blooded, cold-hearted, right? So we have to figure out what's going on, right? Because clearly there seems to be two moral choices. I mean, you're all, right? None of you acted selfishly. So you can see how morality is not necessarily about being unselfish. None of you acted selfishly, and yet we have two moral paths, and there's only one, which will be the Kantian one. Yes, you're dying over there. Not, it's the deadline. You can't help them study. Their mind is, you see what I mean? No, nobody listens. See, this is the situation. There is no hope, right? Everyone is a robot, more and more robotic as you go up the ladder. You know, it exists, people like that, you know, and situations like that do exist where you cannot, yeah, I'm sure you've been talked to a librarian recently or you've talked to an administrator. This is how it is. There's no dialogue. You're talking to a computer, right? You're not entering the right thing. They're responding the same message each time, right? So this is all going on YouTube, public. My life will be destroyed 20 years from now. You can be sure of it, right? So you see what I mean? This is plausible. I've seen this already for little things, right? So there's no hope. She cannot study. You cannot help them. This is now what would you do, Goldblatt? You would let her cheat? Okay, we have a big majority wanting to let, okay, well, I'm leaving you. We don't know which one is Kant. What? Yes, it's the only option. It's the only option. Yes, go ahead.
Here's my thing then. So I'm looking at what happens afterwards.
Yes.
So, let's say I were to let this person cheat. What if we get caught? Now that's two people in trouble. Now they're getting penalized and I'm getting penalized.
Ooh.
So now like we're both being hurt. Whereas if I hadn't let them do anything, then maybe they would have failed, and maybe I would have failed, but it would have been from our own. Like I wouldn't be. They wouldn't be falling for me. I wouldn't be falling for them.
Okay, nice. What is talking? Instinct or reason? Instinct, Osorio. You will notice that it's interesting. One can, I'm not going to give it away, but you will notice that one can act in an un-Kantian way and have Kantian intentions, or one can have Kantian actions and un-Kantian intentions. So this one, we don't know yet which one is Kant, but we know for sure that your intention is still instinct, right? And actually, I'm curious. Let me hear some other intentions. Harun, what was your intention in
I wouldn't let them. It's just not right. Like,
No.
I don't know. It's just, like, I understand the situation, but at the same time, her or him cheating off of me is not going to fix the situation. I don't know.
So now you're thinking about fixing the situation. What's that reasoning? Instinct or reason? You want to fix the situation. You say it's not going to help, right? It's not going to make it better. Let me think. It's not going to make it better. So I might as well not do it. This is like, yeah, this is neither. I mean, you're just. But you have something you're saying, it doesn't feel right, and we're going to have to talk about that. What is that, right? Anybody else have another motive? Then, yes.
I would let them cheat because I thought about what I would want if I was in their shoes.
Okay. So you're thinking, yes, what would make me happy, right? What would make me happy if I was in their shoes, correct?
Like if I was in their position, what would I want my friend to do for me?
Okay, what would you need your friend to do for you to make you happy, correct?
guess, yeah.
Instinct or reason? Well, don't be afraid. You lay condemned. Right? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of instinctive people in this classroom. Is there anybody? Yes, Klein?
So I think that like if I don't let them cheat, then they're 100% going to fail.
Yes.
And they're going to have all those negative consequences that I could have if I fail. But,
Yes.
there's only like some probability that we get caught.
Okay.
But if they cheat, then or if they don't cheat, then there's a 100% chance
Okay.
that they're going to fail.
Yes.
So I'm willing to take that risk for myself
Okay.
if it means like raising that chance for someone else who's in need.
Okay, raise it. So his happiness, bigger happiness, small chance of losing your happiness. Instinct or reason? He's thinking about the happiness of his friend. There's more chance his friend will be happy than that you will be unhappy. So you opt for making your friend happy, correct? Instinct or reason? Why reason?
Actually thinking about it, I mean. Like,
Well,
thinking about-
instinct is very sophisticated. Instinct thinks. What's the best way? Should I eat this burger or should I eat this salad, right? Instinct is very, eco-friendly, and instinct is smart. It's thinking long-term, so still instinct. I don't see any rational people yet. Yes?
I know it said the cheating, but I honestly was kind of in between. Like on one hand, I understood like the friend's point of view, like having to, she just lost her father and she has to process all this. And even if she were to study by herself and not cheat, she'd still be too caught up in grief to be able to think properly.
Exactly.
But then on the other hand, if this was my friend, I would want to help her or him. So like.
Oh, you haven't made a decision yet.
Yeah.
Moral fence. Okay. Anybody else want to try? Yes.
I feel like I've let people cheat for less than that.
I know, right? You all into instinct. You in the cave over there.
Yeah, I feel like I would, if I was in his situation or their situation, I would be like my friend.
Of course, right?
Because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't really care.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
I think I gamble too much on that though.
Yeah.
That I'm like, well, hopefully if they get caught, they're like, oh, he didn't know, right? But I feel like you're taking a gamble on that.
Okay.
But I feel
So
like
you're
if it
risking
was
your
my-
happiness a little.
Yeah, I feel like it's my friend. Like he would at least understand that I'm doing him a favor. So if we get caught, he would probably just be like, yeah, I was doing it. He didn't know though. It's not
Okay,
his fault.
okay.
But yeah.
So instinct or reason? Full-fledged? All the way. Every step. Okay, good. Oh, Wozniak, try.
I'm kind of like in the same boat as him. Actually, I don't believe in plagiarism. I think just because some old guy said something, you should have decided. So anyone can copy anything that I do, and Kant would support that. He'd say that's supposed to be.
We'll see. We don't know yet. We don't know yet what Kant would say.
I got in trouble in high school for doing that. I got caught once, but most of the time not. And
Okay.
I didn't even like these people. I was just like.
Good. Okay, we'll see. We don't know yet, right, what Kant would say. But that's a good point, actually, where you're actually taking out, this is interesting. Kant would be sensitive to that. The fact that if nothing is mine and nothing is yours, then there's no property that you're taking from me, and therefore there's no immoral action. That's actually very sophisticated. If you read, we won't study that passage in Kant, but if you continue to read Kant, you can actually completely destroy him with that argument. Yeah. So, so that's pretty good actually. If you read further, right? Good. Okay.